Thanks, Andrew. It is a pleasure to be here. I am going to speak to you about two things I am passionate about. Space, it's since the age of 9, my mission is to take all of you up there. I think it's during our time. I'm serious about that. That is my mission in life, to get the human race off the planet. And I'll talk about why in a moment. No, I'm not going to stay back and let you guys go. There was a great adage, Omni magazine said, you know, the meek shall inherit the earth. The rest of us are going to the stars. I always like that. The other thing is I'm passionate about radical breakthroughs. Not small breakthroughs in life, but radical breakthroughs, making improvements on the challenges we have here. So with that, let's jump in. I think it's humanity's destiny, in fact, our moral imperative, to open up the space frontier. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We spent a lot of our money focused on exploration, but exploration, you know, is the weakest motivator for going into space. In fact, in the NASA budget, it's only in the 10 to 20%. Is there life out there? I think, in fact, life is ubiquitous in the universe, and we just are too down the evolutionary ladder to find it. Another great motivator is wealth. If you think about it, the things that we fight wars over on this planet, metals and minerals and real estate, are in infinite quantities in space. The first trillionaires we made up there, as an example, an average half-kilometer size asteroid is worth something on the order of $20 trillion in platinum group metal markets or nickel and iron. I think that if you think about space as Alaska was, purchased for $4 million in the 1850s as Seward's Folly, and now it's a $1 trillion economy, we take our honeymoons out there, that's the same way we'll see space. Not in 150 years, but I think in the next 30 or so. Fear. We are living in a very precious blue marble as we speak about it. And our planet's been pummeled over the years by asteroids. What you have to do is look at the moon to see what, if we didn't have the atmosphere of the Earth, might look like. And it's during this time that we finally have the ability to actually take the human race off the planet, or to at least catalog all the information from the sonnets to the symphonies to the genetic codes and back that up off the biosphere. And I think it is our moral imperative as a human race to back up Earth off this planet. And I say that in all seriousness, but we'll talk about that. As an example of what is possible, this is a friend of mine, Gene Cernan, on Apollo 17. He's jumping off the moon, and his adage said, if I can get to the moon and do this in 1972, nothing is impossible. I believe that. I, in fact, believe that we're able to do so many greater things than we've done so far. We literally went from 1961, never having flown a person into space, to going to the moon in 8 years. The average age of the engineers who put us on the moon was 26 years old. They made it up as they went along. There was no one there to tell them what couldn't be done. If you think about it, it's only that sort of mindset of, I don't know what can't be done, I'm going to do it, that opens up new frontiers. The average age of the dot-commers, again, in their 20s. It's only now that we have this established old industry that tells us what can't do that we're stopped. We're stuck. The cost of going into space has gone up in 40 years. Reliability has gone down. And I, for one, am tired of that and sick and tired of waiting. And that's where myself and my colleagues started moving forward. The cost, once we're in space, you're 2/3 the way to anywhere. And I think that, in fact, one of the most inefficient ways right now, a brilliant team of people pushing it, but $1 billion per shuttle launch. $1 billion. A workforce of 20,000 people that we pay for whether or not the machine goes into space. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, $100 million a person in the shuttle on the average as a cost. One of my other companies I'll speak about is a company called Space Adventures that I co-founded that has put 3 astronauts up to the Soyuz, on the Soyuz to the station for $20 million. Greg Olson just came back from a great trip. We've got we'll be announcing a few more customers very shortly. $20 million a person. For those of you back remembering your physics, you can actually calculate the amount of energy it takes to get a person into space. It's mgh, potential energy, and then accelerate them to 17,500 miles per hour, 1/2 mv². You'll figure out it's about 5.7 gigajoules At 1.6 megawatts, if you expend it over an hour, you can go and buy energy, at least you could a couple months ago, at 7 cents a kilowatt hour. And the cost of getting you and your space into orbit, any guesses? Who's quick on math here? $100. $100. So this is the price improvement curve I'm passionate about. And there's going to be some new physics invented along the way. But I just want to point out that $100 million a person is not, it's the way it was. It's not the way it needs to be. Space is something that we should have accessible to all of us for the future of our species. It hit me back years ago that today there's only about a dozen commercial launches into space per year. A dozen. That's it. The total number of commercial launch companies around the world, about a dozen. That's a customer per company per year. Now, that's not a business I want to be in. But there is another customer out there. It's you and I. I call us self-loading carbon payloads. You know, we come with plenty of money. You know, they're fun to produce. And a little slow. And the difficulty for me was the spaceships to get us there did not exist. I read a great book called The Spirit of St. Louis. Lindbergh wrote it in 1954, won the Pulitzer Prize. And I had no idea that Charles Lindbergh actually crossed the Atlantic to win a prize. I thought he woke up one day and just said, I'm going to go for it. But in fact, there were 9 people who went after this $25,000 prize. And those 9 people spent $400,000. I'm reading this book, making these notes, and go, holy cow, that's an efficient system. And interestingly, after he made the trip, and of course, Raymond Ortega, who put up the money, didn't pay a penny to any of the others who failed before him. The results were incredible. There was a 30-fold increase in the number of passengers flying in the US between 1926 and 1928, from 6,000 to 180,000. A quadrupling number of airplanes, a tripling number of pilots. Aviation stocks went through the roof. I said, that's what we need. And it was that idea that gave me the concept for the X Prize. And I set out to put together a $10 million cash purse. That was the number for me that was a reasonable amount, not so big that Boeing and Lockheed would go after it, because it's the last people I wanted to go after the competition. Big enough to really incentivize the innovators. Wanted a ship that can carry 3 people because it was the first viable first step. It was a pilot and 2 paying passengers, or 3 brave passengers and an autopilot. Which I think will happen a lot of. Going up 100 kilometers, 62 miles, officially spaced both in the US and Europe, come back down, and the trick was doing it again in 2 weeks. It meant that the cost per flight was fuel plus the touch labor. And that means the price can get cheap. And in fact, I think the numbers will end up coming down from where they are right now, about $200 million, to about $20,000 a seat using this technology, which is something that anybody who has that dream can afford. We had amazing results, 26 teams from 7 countries. And the beautiful thing was it was Darwinian evolution. Every single approach was explored. Helicopters to space, balloons to space, vertical takeoff, horizontal takeoff, water landings. Every possible concept was being looked at, and we didn't pay a dime to any of them. This is fixed cost engineering, if you would. And of course, Spaceship One, a beautiful design, won the show. And I'm going to show you a small video here, actually the first few minutes of it. The vice chairman of the X Prize is a fellow Bob Weiss, who's done 26 motion pictures from the Blues Brothers Naked Gun series. And that's important because telling the story is a critical part of a competition. Let's see a few minutes here.
Stand by to cure. and killer.
Hello and welcome to Mojave here in the high desert of California on this incredible day. Now we'd like to welcome all our viewers on the web, AOL, the Science Channel in the US, and Discovery Channel Canada. Now you are going to witness history in the making. And there it goes.
Release arm fire.
We've got an apogee call of 368,000 feet.
So in my official capacity as the Chief Judge of the Ansari X Prize competition, I declare that Mojave Aerospace Ventures has indeed earned the Ansari X Prize.
The X Prize for 2 consecutive private space trips was won today by
a $10 million prize.
$10 million.
We were the #1 story after the capture of Saddam Hussein in 2004.
prize and launching 1,000 dreams.
They did find ways to defray some of the costs, mostly through advertising.
We had 396 different front pages in international newspapers. Numerous magazine articles, including many cover stories, were published worldwide.
The webcast itself, that page is the most successful feature that AOL has ever had. The payload of the foundation is spreading the word. People getting to see the events that would transform how they think about space and space travel.
It's not often you get a chance to participate in the making of history.
Kitty Hawk flew over. This was an incredibly historic day.
I congratulate the X Prize Foundation for motivating and bringing about this spirit of innovation, of entrepreneurship.
They prove the point for all history that a small entrepreneurial company can sort of build a backyard dragster that could go into space. They've proved the point.
So that was, it was an incredible experience, and I have to say the feeling I felt at the end of that was absolute relief. Relief that someone had pulled it off, and relief that we were moving forward after 40 years, in my mind, well, since Apollo, 30 years of real stagnation. I mean, I know that I drank the Kool-Aid, probably too much of it back in the late 60s, early 70s, of belief that we were going to go into space. And I would go to school kids and I would ask the question, how many of you would like to travel into space? Everyone would raise their hand. Then I'd ask, how many of you actually think you're going to have a chance to go? And no one would. Over 30 years, we had convinced people that it was not part of their future, that there's something only for a few hundred very special astronauts to go, which is great. And they should go to Mars, and they should go beyond. But opening up space for the rest of us is something that should be, if you're an explorer, the oceans, the mountaintops, and space should be your prerogative. We had amazing results for the competition. We changed the paradigm that space was only for governments. 26 different teams, 5 billion media impressions over the course of the competition. Huge public excitement. Spaceship One is being commercialized now by Branson and his team to Spaceship Two. We leveraged our seed capital that we got from St. Louis 50-fold, $100 million spent to win the $10 million prize. Regulatory reform. We actually were able to drive the FAA to adopt the regulations required in order to have the competition won. This was my pitch to Marion Blakey, the FAA administrator. I said, here's the headlines. Canada wins X Prize because U.S. bureaucracy prevents flights. and it worked. And in fact, prizes are a great mechanism for driving regulatory change. And I'll speak about that in a few minutes. And in fact, we did a study for NASA and for the Air Force about creating new prize programs. And NASA adopted that study into the Centennial Challenges program and has put a program in place that we hope to manage for them to do prizes for orbital flights and flights, for sample returns from asteroids and landing on the moon. And in fact, I think that we can see literally 10-fold and 100-fold improvements on costs by using competitions like this for breakthrough concepts. And probably one of the interesting results I'm most proud of is this. Spaceship One is now hanging in the Air and Space Museum next to the Spirit of St. Louis in the Wright Flyer. The follow-on, because a one-time event is not enough, so the model that we've created for prizes includes the prize, initial prize creates the industry, the event, and then it's important to have follow-on. So when I announced the X Prize, I announced another dream, which we just began implementing, called the X Prize Cup. And using competitions, I held a competition between the space states, Florida, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and California bid. Governor Richardson bid $10 million and has won an annual event we call the X Prize Cup, in which we bring all of the teams together at one location every year, and we let them compete for new records, altitude, time to climb, cross distance, all of these records. And in fact, this was the image I sold it on the left, and there's a photo from the first event that occurred 2 weeks ago. So it was, not too bad to imagine it 5 years ago. We had 10,000 folks. Our goal is $500,000. We want to create the Oshkosh, if you would, of space, or the America's Cup of space, where it really becomes a nest, an incubator for this industry. Cash prizes. NASA announced they'll be funding 2 cash prizes for future competitions at the $1 million or higher. And I can talk about that more later. But this is off and going. We'll be holding it every year. So if you want to come and see the spaceships, not from 5 miles away, but go sit in the seats, meet the pilots, meet the engineers, see where you can go buy your flight, come to Las Cruces next October 21st and 22nd. So that's one of the companies. Another company I started, again, out of frustration, because NASA has had this airplane called a KC-135 zero-G airplane. I wanted so much to go and experience weightlessness on it, and I couldn't because they wouldn't let me, because only for research. I said, fine, I'm going to go do it myself. So I teamed up with a partner by the name of Byron Lichtenberg, and it took us 11 years. We started this in May of '93. In October of 2004, we had our first flight. It took me 11 years to get through the FAA, but I was not giving up, and we got through the FAA, and we are now operating zero-G flights around the world. That's Burt Rutan on the right and Greg Marinak. You've never had more fun with your clothes on than you've had in zero-G. So we've actually done 50 flights, beat our business plan in the first year. We've flown 1,200 people into weightlessness. We have 2 modified 727s currently operating out of Florida. We're going to be opening operations next year in Las Vegas. Our market projections show that we'll be doing about 10,000 people a year very shortly in zero-gravity operations. And for me, it's a way of capturing all the customers right now that want to fly into space. Those are the customers around the world that I want to own as I open up this industry. Let's see a few. You can do, besides zero-G, we also do lunar flights, where this is what it looks like on the moon. So you get about 30, when we do Martian problems, you get about 40 seconds of 1/3 weight. Lunar is about 35 seconds of 1/6 your weight. And then this is a commercial filmed by 7-Up in zero-G.
For a chance to win the first free ticket to space, look for specially marked packages of Diet 7-Up. When you want the taste that won't weigh you down, the only way to go is up.
It really is an amazing experience. For those who are interested, we just had some really great breakthroughs with NASA, again, after 11 years. We just did our first 2 research flights out of the Johnson Space Center. We just last week got permission to operate for the first commercial flights ever out of the Kennedy Space Center. So November 5th, we're going to be flying out of the Kennedy Space Center, the shuttle landing facility. It's never before done. A couple of flights. We have a few seats left in that. Anybody who's interested, please let me know. Other company, Space Adventures, $20 million in your pocket. You want to go to ISS? We will take you there. We've flown 3 customers so far. The market is huge. We announced a $100 million flight with the Russian Space Agency to the moon. We have serious customers in that as well. So I want to give you a sense that this industry is real. An area I've been looking at and saying, wow, you know, they make so much money, is NASCAR. NASCAR, the average income for merchandise alone is $1.5 billion. Oh, what a, you know, privately owned company, what a cash cow. I said, well, I've got something better. And 2 weeks ago, I teamed up with a gentleman by the name of Granger Whitelaw, who's twice had his team win the Indianapolis 500. And we have launched something called the Rocket Racing League. And a very serious note, here's our first prototype vehicle. We are building 10 of these vehicles. The one on the right over here is actually fueled by a LOX alcohol engine. That's an 800-pound engine. It's a clear flame. This is the LOX kerosene engine under development. I want you to imagine 10 of these racing around a 3-dimensional sky course with 20-foot long. This image was taken at noon in the Mojave Desert. Okay, super bright flames. The vehicles have about 4 minutes of go juice, of go fast button. So it'll be taking off, they'll be boosting it at different times, coming back, landing after about, it'll be boost and glide, coming back and landing, and then refueling in about 7 minutes. So refueling, and it'll be doing a race. We'll be racing these around the country. The Reno Air Races will be having the semifinals, and the X Prize Cup will have the finals. We'll be launching this in 2007 with races around. We've been approached by every toy company and video game industry in the company once we announced this. And here's what they'll look like as they go. We are literally using differential GPS on board. Each of the pilots on board will be having their own heads-up display with their own lane they'll be flying through. For us, it is a way, for me, it's a way of bringing, you know, the $20 and $30 billion a year sponsorship marketplace into the space industry to get us out of the addiction to government dollars, which has been far too long causing us to take no risk in the human space flight and is killing our innovation there. So the X Prize worked, and it worked so well that we have decided to build the X Prize Foundation beyond space into other prize areas. Larry Page from Google joined our board. Craig Venter, who you know from Human Genome, joined our board. Elon Musk from PayPal, Takafumi Horie from LiveDoor in Japan, and have joined us to build a world-class prize institute. Our mission is to bring about radical breakthroughs in space and other technologies for the benefit of humanity. That's what we're passionate about. When you give to a university, I'm being generous here at 1-to-1, you might get 30 cents on your dollar. If you give a 2-to-1 matching grant, that's good. If you sponsor a prize, you can get 50-to-1 return on your money. I showed this slide, and Larry Page was in his first board meeting. He says, but if you sponsor a prize institute, you get 500-to-1 on your money. He's all about leverage. And I said, well, Larry, come on, and he did. So we're creating this world-class prize institute. And people ask, where's the money coming from? Well, it's coming from benefactors. You were asking earlier. We also comes from sponsors. And this is our value proposition to sponsors. Pay close attention, because it's fun. When we announce a prize, we have a certain amount of publicity growing as the teams get going. And we're still getting a dozen articles a week on the Ansari X Prize competition. And it skyrockets when the prize is won. The social benefits, of course, come when the prize is won and go on pretty much ad infinitum. And the value to a sponsor who supports this is really the addition of the two, all the benefits. I mean, how much would you have paid for 400 front pages around the world on 3 different dates? And to have your vehicle hang in there in Space Museum. So that's the blue line is the sponsor benefits. Now, if you're a sponsor who wanted to create this kind of activities, you would have to start funding early on and sustain your funding and not know whether or not it's going to happen. But by putting together a prize, you basically have a small amount of sustainer, and you pay only when it happens. It's like throwing yourself a touchdown pass. And the sponsors love that. So that's our value proposition for sponsors. We're also, by the way, we're launching a new model for venture funding, where we announce a prize and have as part of it the right to invest in the teams. So it's sort of like pulling and pushing at the same time to accelerate it. For me, it's all about this. We're stuck in the way we think. We don't know how not to think the way we think. And when you look at a solution set, we're at the green point, and we want to go to this red point. This was Boeing and Lockheed, and up there is Scaled and Burt Rutan. And we navigate within the way we think. But by putting up a competition, you can motivate someone, in the shower in India who's completely outside your field. And I imagine in the future we will have $100 million prizes for the biggest things. In fact, my goal is that we reinvent philanthropy in a fashion to do that. We've created a prize discovery method on how to move these things forward. And we're attacking the following challenges. We're on the verge of announcing an energy prize for actually trying to completely rework the automobile industry. It's another broken industry, completely. Thank you. There is no reason why we don't have cars on the roads right now that are getting amazing performance, like 200 miles per gallon or greater, all of this stuff. It is broken. Automobile companies right now make most of their money on repairs and aftermarket issues. They're not motivated for the kinds of breakthroughs that are out there right now. So energy, transportation, the environment. We'll be announcing, Craig Venter joined our board, we'll be announcing shortly a prize for breakthroughs in rapid genome sequencing. Again, the goal is being able to sequence anybody's DNA for $1,000 or less. Being able to literally take medicine and bring the benefits that are out there to be had. We're also looking at education, another very broken system, and even looking at social areas like poverty. The way we work is when we establish a new prize, we create a prize team, and those prize teams draw on the experience we've had, talk to sponsors and so forth, and go forward. And I'm very proud. We're at the cover of Philanthropy magazine last month. And this is, again, the goal. A right prize can change the world. It can provide inspiration and hope. I think of prizes as a time machine, literally reaching across time and space and saying, this problem is solvable. If you write the rules properly and you put enough money there, seriously, you will reach across time and space. You will affect where people go and study, what university educational programs we have, where research labs go and do their things. The trickle-down effect is huge. So that's our mission, to attack the grand challenges of our time, generate leverage, innovate, open-mindedness, and then take risk. Guys, we are killing ourselves here in the United States, literally killing ourselves with our inability and unwillingness to take risk. And that's something which I stand firmly against. So this is where we're going next 6 to 12 months, 12 to 36 months. And this is what I firmly believe. The most critical tool for solving humanity's grand challenges is the committed and passionate human mind. Thank you very much.